Welcome to Wigglesticks TV. Episode, we're going to have a look at this dodgy brake lever on my S-Rad. As you can see, pulling it in, it's got a little bit of a sticky motion in it, so it brakes okay, but there's some stickiness in the caliper itself. So I'm going to try and attempt to fix that today. It's kind of annoying thing to feel when you're using it, but it actually brakes okay. It's just a bit sticky in the action. You can see when you pull the lever in here a little bit, it's kind of grabbing and pinching. It feels like it's in the master cylinder or somewhere else like that, but I have a master cylinder rebuild kit on order, and I've already done it on the other one as well, so I may look at rebuilding the whole master cylinder, and then as well as looking at potentially rebuilding the calipers at some point is an option. The other option I also have is to potentially put the Brembo calipers off the track bike on there. I've ordered this bracket for the 90mm spacing on the S-Rad forks. So even as a backup, I might just keep that in place because I've already rebuilt this master cylinder and has fresh lines on it and everything anyway. So it's also an option I'm considering depending on how well this brake bleeding going. And the Brembos, I mean, why not? Brembos look pretty cool too. Just noticed that the forks are leaking a little bit on this one, but that's a problem for another day. I just pulled the cover off the top of the brake fluid reservoir, and you can see the color of that. To me, that looks quite dirty brake fluid, so I think it's probably a good idea to flush the system. I did start to bleed the right hand side and a few little air bubbles came out, so maybe by the time I flush the system, put some new brake fluid in there, it might actually improve the feel, and then I won't have to do a complete brake swap upgrade. So let's see how it goes. So I'm about halfway through bleeding the system. A few little air bubbles did come out, particularly of this caliper, but you can see now the lever itself, it doesn't have that sticking motion that it did before. So I'm just going to keep going at it and get as much of the new brake fluid in the system as the old one. Flush it through. You can see the color of the old brake fluid there is pretty dirty, so probably due for a change anyway. So yeah, I'll just keep going at it, and I'm going to switch over the other side now and try and get some of the cleaner fluid through the other side. I'll put a link into the description of the video I referenced to figure out how to actually bleed the brakes, because it's the second time I've done it. But I just would point out the color of the fluid now. I'm just keeping an eye on when that gets down to the bottom line, so I don't get any more air into the system, and then I'm just waiting until it gets to the last possible moment, and then I'm topping it back up with brand new fluid and just trying to push that through the system. So I've got a little bit more go, and then I'll fill it back up with clean fluid, and we should get the color of the fluid in there to be much clearer, because now I can see the hole where before all I could see was the brown murkiness of the brake fluid. So fingers crossed this works. I've got most of the old fluid out of there now, I think. You can see the color of the new fluid is nice and clear now. I'll show you the old fluid in a second. So I'm going to just top that back up to the full line. It's pretty much there already anyway, so just a fraction more in there. Seal up the system, and then just check that everything works. But you can see the color of the old fluid is pretty brown and murky, given the color of the new fluid, which is pretty clear and yellow, sort of like the front disc calipers. So yeah, I think it was a worthwhile little system. The only issue I've got to sort now is in this caliper, it's like a springy noise that I'd like to try and resolve, so I'll probably take that off in a sec and yeah, just pull the pads out and see that the pads and the spring and everything are back in the correct way, because it just feels like the spring or something is moving around a little bit in there. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with how that turned out. So as I said, I'll put a link to the video I used down the bottom as reference for bleeding the brakes, but the lever itself feels much better. There's no jumpiness in the lever at all. Oh, it's 20 times better than it was previously, so yeah, hopefully that solves the problem. Still might be cool to put Brembos on it though, so we'll see what happens. Just got back from taking the bike out for a quick spin to test the brakes, and they are much better. Good feel, no modulation or anything, so progress has been done. Thanks, Dan.